Well, thank you for joining me today for this brief interview. Maybe we can start just by introducing yourself, what you do, and maybe just tell us your name and what you do. Yeah.
Sure. My name's Robert Wannop. I'm a secondary English teacher in Sheffield.
Cool. What grade do you teach?
So
year?
I teach secondary school, so it's like year 7 all the way up to year 11. So that's like 11-year-olds up to 16-year-olds.
So like teenagers, yeah.
Yeah, the troublesome ones.
Yeah, as they say. Well, since you work with teenagers, how would you describe your students' interactions or relationship with social media? Do you see that?
Yeah, I think it's like palpable that it's connected to just about every aspect of their sort of experience growing up, really. You know, it's the way that they will sort of interact with each other when they're sitting at home, you know, much like most of us do. It's the way that they'll arrange to meet up. And it's the way that they, you know, consume media. Yeah, it's just interconnected with everything, I think, really.
Do you incorporate social media in your lesson plans at some point, or you don't do that as teachers?
Yeah, occasionally. Like, yeah, sometimes I guess as like an English teacher, the standard of English that you try to encourage students to use while they're in the classroom is different to that we usually use on social media. So I might like maybe use it as a fun little ending activity or something like, oh,
because it's more engaging.
Yeah, that's it. It'll be usually like a hook to try and engage the students rather than like trying to produce something for social media. But you know, maybe that could change because yeah, it's an important aspect of our, you know, economy now, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think social media interactions have an impact on the way students perceive themselves or even the way they interact with one another?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think that when you're a young person, you're constantly looking for reassurance or sort of guidance on the way that you should be, the way that you should behave, what's normal. And so when the thing that we have closest to us is a phone, that's the first place that we go to. You know, we might usually go and speak to a parent or, you know, somebody that we respect and we trust, but that can be quite awkward. So if you've got a phone available, then that'll be your first port of call. And, you know, places like TikTok have lots of media for young people to consume that, you know, speaks to those kind of questions, like, you know, yeah, difficult questions about identity and yeah, what kind of behaviors are acceptable and what aren't.
Yeah, like a window to the outer world, isn't it? Yeah. I get that. Well, since you work with teenagers mostly, and we know that they are that they use social media heavily, right? Have you ever encountered any cyberbullying cases in the school that you teach at?
Yeah, quite a number over the years. Yeah, not specifically at the school that I'm in, actually, but there have been yeah, many cases, not just of students, but of teachers too. It's pretty commonplace, to be honest. Yeah, lots of examples of students being targeted for their appearance, their sexuality, their gender, lots of misogyny. There are lots and lots of examples of students being targeted, and they're just the ones that we know about. You know, I mean, it's I guess if we think back to when we were at school, lots of adults will say like, wow, kids are little monsters, that they're absolutely awful to one another. And that's our experience seeing it in the flesh, but we don't get to see all of that stuff that's happening online because victims don't speak about it, and obviously perpetrators don't either.
Yeah. How do you think, well, having encountered these cases like throughout the years, how do you think this virtual harassment impacts the life of the people who are victims of the cyberbullying?
I've seen students move in and out of schools because of them being victimized, and schools being unable to deal with it. Like because a school can make a complaint to like an app and say like, oh, this student has been victimized, we need to close these accounts. But those apps are either unwilling or unable to close down those accounts just because of the number of requests for that are coming in. So it's, they're just not able to happen. So we're not really able to do much about it, or we don't have much way of finding out who has been creating those sort of like accounts or those posts.
Are these usually anonymous, like from like a fake account?
Yeah, that's it. They're usually sort of like a burner account where like somebody will just make a fake account and then they'll make a daft meme taking the mick out of a student or whomever. And yeah, there's not really, once it's there's not really much we can do to stop more being made. And so you either wait for the person who's made the account to get bored with the idea, or you just have to kind of move on and accept it, or it continues and the student might actually end up just leaving that school or that environment altogether, just because it becomes unbearable, and then they feel like they don't want to be picked on anymore in that way.
Yeah, so it's not only affecting like their self-esteem, it's actually affecting their right to education as well, right? Because if they're moving schools, that's going to have an impact on like their performance, their academic performance.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how have you addressed cyberbullying cases in the past? Is there anything else that you would like to add to what you were saying?
So I guess if a student disclosed to me that they were being cyberbullied, like the procedure that teachers are supposed to follow is just to stop and listen and not sort of question anything that the student is saying, and just listen to as much information as they're willing to give, and then you immediately just report that to your designated safeguarding lead in the school, and then they follow up the conversation further with the student. But I think in the moment I would just try and give some sort of comfort to the student, and let them know that it will pass, and that that it's idiotic what the students are doing, that are picking on them.
Do you at some point coordinate? Do you liaise with the parents at some point? Have you ever gotten to that point?
Well, I wouldn't do that personally, just because I would that job would be for that designated safeguarding lead.
Yeah.
I'd have this sort of specific person to take up that work. But there are definitely cases where I've talked through other concerns with parents that I've had about students. But if I was like reporting some bullying, that would go to that safeguarding lead person in the school.
So is it safe to say that you do have a protocol in order to deal with these cases at your institution?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I wouldn't say that's the case for all schools, and those schools, if they're failing, their Ofsted inspections or whatever, that's something that they're looking at, is safeguarding, whether there's a procedure in place. And I can say that the school that I'm at, there is one, but I would say that also the lack of funding for schools makes it really difficult for those safeguarding teams to do that job effectively, just because they don't have enough people. There's the sheer number of safeguarding disclosures that are made every single day is absolutely like unfathomable in a lot of schools. And yeah, and they're all, you know, they're all struggling to deal with that. So yeah, it's something that's difficult for those teams for sure.
Rob, is there any recommendations that you would give to other professionals working with young adults, teenagers, or children when it comes to cyberbullying?
Yeah, I think it's important that you talk about it. So it's, you know, it's important if you've got sort of like a form group or like a registration group or something like that, or you teach a subject like PHSE, then it's really worthwhile just to have a conversation about the impact of that, because I think that's something that we have to remind ourselves of, even as adults, that when we're sort of like making a meme or like a joke online, there is a human impact of that. And that's something that I think you really have to try hard to keep in students' minds, because I don't know, we can all kind of remember when we were young, the amount of things that went on around us that we accepted, and that maybe we even sort of condoned or laughed at, that really on reflection aren't that funny. And it takes sort of having that conversation about the impact of those things with students for them to remember that, you know, while they're in that situation, and to maybe just like stop and not put that post up, just to stop and think, what is this likely to do to that other person?
Yeah,
you know,
especially because we're constantly bombarded with a lot of information, a lot of memes, a lot of reels. So it seems like, oh, it's just one more, right? Nothing's gonna happen. Like, it's just part of this trend. I'm just gonna upload it.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there anything else that you would like to share when it comes to cyberbullying and education?
I would just put my union hat on and just say more funding for schools. So yeah, just so I'm a NEU rep at the moment, and we're campaigning for more funding in schools at the moment, just to ensure that students can be kept safe. The more funding that schools have, the better we can be sure that the students will be safe while they're in our schools. And so, yeah, pay up.
That's it. That's it. Well, that was it. Thank you.